Ethiopia's desert, the hottest place on the planet, cracking at the crust, sinking deeper beneath the Earth's surface. But while this hostile wilderness offers little opportunity for life, some of Africa's highest mountains rise high out of the ashes, creating an aerial oasis for some of the world's most unique and adaptable creatures. This is a land of extremes. This is Ethiopia. Landlocked and surrounded by 5 countries, Ethiopia is one of East Africa's forgotten lands. Seemingly passive deserts in fact seethe with fire. And cloud-piercing peaks shield a secret Eden of canyons and cliff tops teeming with life. This fertile wilderness is a haven for a whole host of specialist hunters who have adapted and perfected unique strategies in order to survive. Deeply spiritual people have clung to parts of these mountains for nearly 4,000 years. And the highlands are also the final retreat for one of Africa's most isolated primates. Gelada baboons are the last surviving species of a widespread group of grass-grazing monkeys, once found across the whole of Africa. Their relatives began disappearing around 1 million years ago, when the African climate started to warm, and edible grasses began growing only at higher altitudes. Geladas either moved to where there was food or starved. But as people also capitalize on the highlands' fertile soil, Ethiopia's geladas may be about to face the battle of all battles in order to survive. Despite the rich offerings of their mountainous home, could this really be the geladas' last stand? "75 million years ago, magma from deep beneath the Earth's surface forced upwards a huge dome of ancient rock 800 kilometers wide, giving birth to the Ethiopian highlands. Eventually, the tectonic plate beneath this enormous formation began to split and separate, sparking a chain of volcanic activity along what is now known as the Great Rift Valley. Today, 30 million years later, the Earth's crust along Ethiopia's rift is still being pulled apart at a rate of 1.5 centimeters a year. It is also sinking. The Danakil Desert or Depression is currently over 100 meters below sea level, making it one of the lowest points on the Earth's surface. The Danakil is also the hottest place on the planet. The average annual temperature is 34 degrees centigrade, with mercury levels frequently rising above 50. And with just 200 millimeters falling each year, rain is a rare event. Sulfur-spattered hot springs bubble away, heated by boiling lava deep beneath the Earth's surface. Lunar-like conical vents continuously let off steam. Around 1,200 square kilometers of the Danakil region is a giant salt plain. Mineral-rich waters flowing into the depression are quickly evaporated, trapping the residue. Over millennia, this has laid down salt layers over 2 kilometers thick in places. But crowning these hostile lowlands is Erta Ale, a continually active volcano containing the world's only permanent lava lake. This sea of molten rock is more than half a kilometer across. Erta Ale offers a modern-day glimpse into the formidable forces that so long ago pushed up the enormous ancient rocks to create Ethiopia's highland wonder. The roof of Africa. Rising 4,500 meters above the Danakil Depression. This mountainous region forms the largest continuous area of its altitude in the whole of Africa. Little of its surface falls below 1,500 meters. And the annual rainfall up here is around 7 times that of the parched land below. In contrast to the Danakil Inferno, these temperate grass-covered hills witness snow and ice on their highest points. Night temperatures often fall below freezing. Despite the evening chill, Ethiopia's Simien Mountains provide the perfect home to one of Africa's most unusual grazing mammals. Unlike most monkeys, the gelada's diet is primarily made up of grass. Because a handful of these green blades contains a relatively small amount of energy, geladas spend around 60% of their waking hours cropping the plains. Unusually large molar teeth enable them to grind out the nutrients of each blade. Feeding is a sitting-down affair. Opposable thumbs along with a short index finger allow for a precise tweezer grip. Perfect for plucking grasses close to the root. With herds numbering up to 600 individuals, the highlands' grassy plateaus are in no time stripped short. Geladas are the only primates to have a pink hourglass-shaped skin patch on their chest. As well as adding to their distinctive looks, it has a more important use. In other baboon societies, the female's bottom changes appearance, signaling she's ready to mate. But because geladas spend so much of their time sitting down, it's their chest patch that blisters and becomes brighter in color whenever they're fertile. After breakfast, there's no better way to unwind and relax than a good rummage through someone else's fur. This adult male gelada is about the size of a large domestic dog. He's the head of his own harem, made up of around a dozen females and their young. Although grooming also helps reaffirm social bonds throughout most of the group, it seems this alpha male would be far better off scratching his own back, not wasting his efforts on the females. Despite being the so-called boss, it's actually the women who call the shots in this society. Where to walk, when to eat, including when it's time for their leader to be replaced. Bands of bachelor males roam the outer perimeter of the herd, looking for signs of weakness, looking to catch the eye of any one of the females. This particular alpha male may soon be forced to prove his worth. As night draws in, the herd head to the safety of the hollows in the cliff face. Long, thick coats of hair may protect them from the cold night air, but would offer little defense against the tearing teeth of the mountain's most notorious nocturnal predator. While many of Ethiopia's larger predators rest throughout the day, one particular pack of highland hunters is just waking up. Ethiopian wolves evolved from a grey wolf-like ancestor, making the journey from Asia to North Africa as recently as 100,000 years ago. Also known as the simian fox or simian jackal, they are similar in size and appearance to the European red fox. Packs contain up to 13 individuals. Like all wolves, this carnivore has excellent hearing and a highly sensitive sense of smell. Already, something's caught this hunter's attention. But unlike their pack-hunting cousins, Ethiopian wolves have modified their hunting strategy. They choose to hunt alone on the open grasslands, splitting up from their groups to track down their prey. The hunter freezes. Silence is key to avoid alerting its victim. keeping a low profile. It closes in. This stalking strategy can last just a few seconds, or sometimes up to an hour. Fortunately, geladas aren't on this predator's menu. Its eyes are focused on a much smaller meal. Success. Ethiopian wolves are the ultimate rat catchers. Of the species living on the plateau, small grass rats are the most hunted prey. Over 95% of the wolves' diet is made up of rodents. With the hunting mission over, the individuals regroup and return to camp. Young, hungry, and impatient mouths demand their share of breakfast. While some pups still rely on regurgitated catch, other members of the pack prefer their meals intact. Although it appears some youngsters want the best of both worlds. Like geladas, these extraordinary wolves are unique to Ethiopia's highlands. But there's another species that's also made these dramatic mountains its exclusive home. This creature has nerves of steel. Balancing on the edge of a rocky ledge, a 500-meter drop just a few centimeters away, it seems completely at ease with the terrifying steepness. But like all mountain goats, Walia ibex have feet specially adapted for a life on the edge. Their hooves have sharp edges and concave undersides, which act like suction cups, gluing them to this ever-challenging terrain. Even climbing trees to reach a meal proves effortless. Despite sharing the same habitat with gelada baboons, these ibex have more diverse feeding habits. Along with grasses and ferns, old man's beard lichen growing among the trees is a particular favorite. Male ibex spend the majority of their time living together in small groups, while females opt for a more solitary existence. But during the mating season, this grouping pattern changes. The females form tight-knit nursery groups, while the males put their friendships aside as soon as they get wind of the fertile females. Although their meter-long horns make for perfect back scratchers, they have a more important use at this time of year. Known as rutting, this clashing of heads is what sorts out the men from the boys. As one battle is decided, another challenger steps forward. It can be a drawn-out war lasting several weeks. The eventual victor gets to dominate the female herd, increasing his chances of siring the most offspring. Although Ethiopia's highlands provide the perfect refuge for many creatures, There's another mammal that has also risen to the challenge of surviving here. Over 2,000 years ago, just 50 kilometers further north along the highland plateau, man made his mark here at Axum. These obelisks crown the tombs of Ethiopia's ancient royal rulers, who chose this region as their political and religious capital around 3,000 years ago. Carved from granite, with some towering over 30 meters tall, these memorials were seen as stairways to heaven. In the same mountainous district, a series of caves lie hidden amongst the landscape. For centuries, they have been the destination for thousands of steely-nerved pilgrims. Cut out of the solid rock face, this Christian Orthodox church is one of 100 or so, perched high up within these vertical cliffs. Adorned with medieval murals, for over 1,000 years these holy hideaways have allowed their congregations to participate in peaceful prayer and spiritual ritual. Founded back in the 4th century by a shipwrecked Christian, Ethiopia's Orthodox Church is one of the oldest established churches in the world. While mountain priests continue to conquer the high life, another group of people have lowered their sights, but taken on an even greater physical challenge. In Ethiopia's hostile Danakil Depression, the shimmering 50-degree heat reveals what appears to be a mirage of life. But this is no illusion. These are the Afar, one of the toughest tribes on the planet. For centuries, the Afar have dominated the Danakil Desert, once one of the only trade routes in and out of Africa. These nomadic herders were among the most powerful and hardy tribes on the continent. Not only did they provide the camel trains needed to transport goods, they were the keepers of Ethiopia's secret gold, otherwise known as salt. This essential human commodity was once so valuable it was traded ounce for ounce with the southern continent's gold reserves. Beneath this dry and desolate moonscape lies a seemingly endless and still expanding reserve. Although not quite as valuable today in monetary terms, the Afar still guard and defend this territory with all their might. Harvesting the salt is a team effort, divided into 3 separate roles. Breakers dig and lever up the salt layers before the masons shape each brick. This is a fine art. Each block turns out to be virtually identical to the next. Packers and loaders ensure the blocks are securely fastened and balanced on the camels' backs. Each animal can carry up to 24 blocks, a load of around 170 kilograms. The Afar alternate the locations where they mine. Holes left by removing the salt slabs will quickly fill up with salty water. The intense sun then evaporates the liquid, leaving behind layers of fresh salt crystals. This way, the harvested section of plain replenishes itself time and time again. Once fully loaded, the 50-strong camel train begins the 2-week trek up to the temperate highlands. Eventually, the salt will be traded and distributed to the mountain region's various markets. As one group of hardy warriors scrape out a living in the desert, in the gelada-inhabited highlands, another gang of primates face harsh challenges of their own. This group of gelada bachelor males are planning a raid. The harem's alpha realizes he needs to act fast if he is to protect and retain the support of his much-prized females. Pulling back his highly elastic upper lip over his nose, he reveals 2-inch-long canines. The message to these potential challengers is clear: back off, or I'll attack. But one of the bachelors appears unfazed by the threat and stands his ground. Left with no other option, the harem's alpha male attacks. But this time, the harem leader has met his match. He finds himself on the receiving end and is forced to take flight. With badly bruised pride, the alpha male attempts to rejoin his group. But the battle isn't quite over yet. The victorious bachelor male moves in to claim his prize. But it's soon apparent defeating the alpha is only half the battle. Because it's the females in gelada society who set all the rules, this bachelor receives the wrath of the women, who send out a clear message of support for their current leader. Although today the alpha has the backing of the females, it won't be long until he falls out of favor and the harem welcomes a new challenger chasing the top job. Fortunately, competition and fighting over food is a rare occurrence up here in the abundant grass-covered hills. But relatively recently, another mammal has realized the value of the highlands' fertile soils. Perched on the lower ledges of this mountain kingdom are the Amhara, farmers whose lives depend on a crop that is as old as the hills. Teff. This humble wheat is the ancestor from which varieties such as millet have since been cultivated, and is an integral part of Amhara society. Teff seeds are so small, a single handful is enough to sow an entire field. While men work the terraces, it is the women of the village who turn the grain's chalky flour into large leathery pancakes. These flatbreads, known as injera, are unique to Ethiopia. Teff is milled into powder, then mixed with water, yeast, and a small quantity of flours. The base touching the hot iron pan or mitad turns out perfectly flat pancakes, while tiny bubbles create an upper side containing hundreds of mini craters. This porous surface makes injera the perfect bread to scoop up sauces and other traditional dishes. As well as farming crops, the Amhara also maintain herds of cattle, sheep, and goats. These highlands are the perfect grazing territory, and despite greatly outnumbered by the region's grass-picking primates, these four-hooved herbivores are welcomed into the fold. But when it comes down to invading personal space, there are limits. An arm's length appears to be the accepted distance, although some of the younger members of both groups haven't yet got the message. Gelada females only give birth once every other year, so babies can enjoy the undivided attention of their doting mothers right up to their second birthday. Females' teats lie so close to the center of their chest, youngsters are often able to feed from both simultaneously. Once refueled, baby geladas get straight back to business. Play fights, somersaults, and roughing up your best friend are daily necessities. The youngsters appear indestructible, as their seemingly fragile bodies bend in two and survive plummets of several meters. But the peaceful scene may soon be about to come to an unsavory end. Geladas and Amhara people share an ongoing territorial battle. And these shuffling simians are getting uncomfortably close. This farmer's crop would be easy pickings for such a voracious gang of grazers. No fence would be high enough to deter such agile climbers. The teff from these fields is an important source of income, so the farmers have no option but to defend their land. Losing your grip on these steep cliffs can have severe consequences. Living the high life comes with many benefits. But the further you climb, the greater the fall. As the morning thermals begin to rise, an ominous silhouette circles above. The arrival of the highlands undertakers confirms the demise of one of the mountain's monkeys. At over a meter tall, lappet-faced vultures are one of the largest scavengers in the region. It dominates all other birds when feeding. The carcass is quickly stripped clean as other airborne freeloaders get wind of the meal. Thick-billed ravens are the last to give up as the sight of bare bones signals an end to the feast. But for one avian predator, a cleaned-up carcass is cue for a banquet to begin. The Lammergeier vulture is unique. With a wingspan tipping 3 meters, it's one of the world's largest birds of prey. It's also the only creature on the planet with a bone-dominated diet. A highly acidic stomach enables it to digest entire bones overnight. Although even for this giant, there are limits to the portion size it can swallow. But for the Lammergeier, the bigger the bone, the better, as it has developed a remarkable strategy to consume these oversized chunks. After reaching a height of around 200 meters, it's time to let go. This bone-breaking action can be repeated up to 30 times, until the fragments are small enough to digest. South of the highlands, in Ethiopia's Omo Valley, lives a bird that has a unique trick up its sleeve when it comes to obtaining food. This species is being followed. Each time it bounds from tree to tree, a series of shrills and calls seem to advertise its new location. Eventually, the bird reaches its destination and the hunters close in. Which is exactly what this greater honey guide intended. These Suri tribesmen are after one thing, and this bird has led them directly to it. But between this trio of trackers and the prize lie several hundred sting-wielding bees. To bypass these guardians, the hunters draw on an age-old secret weapon. As soon as bees sense their hive is under attack, they release a pheromone which acts as an alarm odor. This initiates a response from the entire swarm, who instantly set about attacking the intruder. The hunter blows smoke into the nest. This not only dulls the bees' alarm receptors, it also causes them to instinctively gorge on their honey. This feeding response comes out of fear that they'll have to relocate their hive due to a potential fire. The gorging also has a pacifying effect, making them less likely to sting. Once the honey is collected, the tribesmen need to complete the final part of their mission. After waiting patiently for over half an hour, the honey guide finally gets its share of the deal. Honey guides are one of the few birds that have specialized enzymes, allowing them to digest beeswax. Along with the odd insect larvae, it makes up the majority of this species' diet. Without the hunters, or another honey-seeking animal's help, the bird wouldn't be able to access the wax hidden deep within the hollow of the tree. Should the tribesmen fail to reward their assistant, legends state next time it could take revenge by leading them to a waiting lion or venomous snake. As well as collecting honey, the Suri people are farmers, keeping a large number of cattle and other livestock. These fertile pastures, bordering the Omo River, enjoy a mild climate with heavy rainfall. Perfect for raising cows, which are an important status symbol for the Suri. Not only do the cows provide milk, during the dry season they're also the source of another protein-rich, thirst-quenching drink. One of the tribe's teenagers takes aim and makes a small incision in the side of the cow's neck. Around 2 liters of blood is collected from each animal once a month. Each bowl is consumed instantly before the contents begin to congeal. The Suri rarely eat their cows and will only kill them as a sacrifice on very special occasions. Men are judged on how many cattle they own and begin caring for their calves from the age of 8. The average male owns around 40 cows, which presents a small challenge, as they're not allowed to marry until they own 60. Suri women are some of the most recognizable tribespeople in Ethiopia. These teenage girls have recently had their lower lips cut. The incision is held open by a wooden plug until the wound heals, and then progressively larger plugs will be inserted over a period of several months. How far the girls stretch their lips is up to them. But the larger the clay plate they are able to hold, the more desirable they become to a future husband. It isn't known exactly why lip plates were first used. Some believe it was meant to discourage slavers from trading the women. But to the men of the village, it is a sign of beauty. The larger the lip plate, the greater number of cows they must pay for a bride. As well as offering an ideal environment for agriculture, the Omo Valley also provides another source of income for the Suri tribe. These nearby streams reveal a luxurious legacy of Ethiopia's volcanic past. Along with honey, the gold panned from these streams is taken to market and often traded with the people of the highlands, including the teff-growing Amhara. In the foothills of the highlands, it's market day. Salt from the Danakil arrives via the Afar people's network of dealers, while Amhara women prepare to trade their teff with buyers from far and wide. The range of goods on offer is endless. While these young Oromo men haggle over the price of rock salt, another member of their tribe is on the lookout for a more unusual product. As the market comes to a close, money changes hands for a much prized